Jody on your right, Simic Nexus, a deck that we thought was basically dead thanks to Teferi Time Raveler. Oliver Tomajko on your left with Izzet Phoenix, a deck that I love. Love. But, you know, he's up against it this round.
Keith was on the play. Island versus Steam Vents. Keith will opt before we go into his second turn. Ooh,
Whoa.
No second land drop.
There must have been some mulligans or something because Jody Keith kept a one-lander with an opt on the play, bricked, and now it looks like he might just be dead. Turn 2, Goblin Electromancer from Oliver from Izzet Phoenix's side. Has a Phoenix in hand. Let's see how ballistic he can go on turn 2, especially with Jody here stumbling so badly.
Keith finds a second land, though it is another island. That means stuff like Growth Spiral, that's not turned on just yet. Not a lot that his deck can do in the early stages of the game without green mana.
No, I would perhaps like him to do something like Blink of an Eye here if he had it to slow down that Goblin Electromancer, because here it looks like Oliver's about to go off.
All right, plays Sulphur Falls as land for turn. First spell, Tormenting Voice for 1 mana, because Electromancer, discard Arclight Phoenix.
Now, Oliver has a Chart of Course and a Shock in hand. If Jody actually has a Blink of an Eye here, he might actually be able to shut down this Arclight Phoenix turn. Chooses not to, though. Going to let it hit.
Yes, so no action from Keith. Tormenting Voice resolves. Tomajko draws 2. Now Chart of Course for 1 mana. Any response to that? Now Jody will cast Blink of an Eye targeting the Electromancer. Tomajko responds with Radical Idea.
And that's a huge bummer for Jody. He was trying to get full value out of that Blink, but unfortunately for him, a second Arclight Phoenix is found, and now 6 damage coming across.
Yeah, Chart of Course picks up and discards Phoenix. 2 of them coming back. Rumble in for 6. Keith to 14.
That was some really key play from Oliver, sequencing so that he cast the Sorcery first with Chart of Course, and then in response to the Blink of an Eye, casting that Radical Idea for just 1 mana. Great play from him.
All right, Keith has a third land, but it is another island. He gets to cast Narset here. He'll -2. Can't find lands, though. See how good of a spell he can find.
Yeah, and that's kind of the problem. You needed that Narset down a turn earlier, basically, and on the play with the opt, just missing that land drop was detrimental.
Yeah, Narset actually exceptional in the matchup. Then the Tormenting Voice is not drawing cards. All that kind of stuff is really weak.
Yeah, it's all just bricking, discarding cards just to get those Arclight Phoenixes back.
The find is Search for Escanta. You know, that would have been fine if he could cast it on turn 2. Pretty slow from here. We go back to Tomajko. As you mentioned, there's a Shock in the hand. That means 3 turns of Phoenix attacks plus a Shock. That would be lethal. Though he does start by killing the Narset, so Jody kind of gains life on that. But this Kefnet readjusts the equation. Keith's at 11, facing down 10 power on the table.
Yeah, and with Shock in hand, that's threatening lethal next turn. I don't think Jody has much to really get out of it. If he has Green Source into Wilderness Reclamation plus Root Snare, he can maybe find a way to victory, but that's a big ask.
Looks like you see Hinterland Harbor at the front of the hand. So that's where anything productive is going to start. He has the green mana.
Looks like he also does have the Wilderness Reclamation. Now, does he have the Root Snare? Because this is 10 damage coming across, so any Shock or Lightning Strike is going to ultimately be lethal if he doesn't have that Root Snare.
Thinking through his options. Looks like more than 1 green spell in the hand. Here's Harbor. There's Wilderness Reclamation. Untap my lands. Your turn. Over to Tomajko. We'll check the top card for the Kefnet. Draws. It's a Steam Vents.
Yep. No real play here for Oliver other than just attack and Shock. Can probably Shock on upkeep just to, if Jody has a removal spell or, a counter spell, makes him use mana on his own turn. But
there was the attack. Keith casts Growth Spiral, puts in a Memorial, but he's taken 10 down to 1. There's Shock, and Keith picks him up. Oliver Tomajko up a game.
Yeah, really impressive start from Oliver. Jody choosing slightly the wrong time to cast that Blink of an Eye, ultimately end up getting punished from the double Phoenix draw. And that's exactly how I said Oliver needs to approach the matchup. If he has an early Goblin Electromancer, if he gets down a Phoenix or 2, and now after sideboard can couple that with a counterspell, a negate, maybe a Spell Pierce, he could actually steal this match. Legion Warboss also a potent answer.
Yeah, winning at game one in a matchup where you're kind of disadvantaged, definitely huge in situations like this. We'll go over to the sideboards now. Tomajko up a game, what he can do to maybe increase his odds in the sideboard games. He has 3 Legion War bosses.
Yeah, I like that for sure. That's coming in against matchups where they don't have a lot of blockers. It's a great way to pressure Planeswalkers, and Jody's version is actually a bit Planeswalker heavy with those main deck Narsets, as well as the Nissas who shake the world.
3 Augur of Bolas.
Mostly for the aggressive matchups, but you might just want to go beat down no matter what. The fact that it puts some pressure on Narset, part of the Veils, while also dodging that can't draw a card effect, static effect, might be worthwhile.
Right. Narset, part of Veils.
I do like Narset, part of Veils. The Simic deck has quite a few cards that say draw a card on them. It shuts down Chemisters pretty well, but also makes it so they can't like main phase Growth Spiral or stuff like that.
Small package of removal spells, 2 Lava Coil, 2 Shiv on Fire, Beacon Bolt. Any argument for any of that?
Not really. If they bring in creatures, you can usually expect that creature to be Carnage Tyrant. Unfortunately, Jody doesn't have that at his disposal, but I still don't think you want those removal spells. I think you can overpower something like Biogenic Ooze quite easily, and mostly you just need to be concerned with countering the Wilderness Reclamations as well as the Nexus Fates.
All right, last up, 2 Negates and a Spell Pierce. Sounds like you're there for that.
Absolutely. You want to basically cut some of your spot removal from your deck, your Lava Coils, maybe some Lightning Strikes or Shocks, go Spell Pierce, Negate, Legion War Boss. That seems like a pretty easy plan to implement.
All right, Jody Keith, he is down a game. What can his sideboard do to help him? We'll start with 3 Thorn Lieutenant as an option.
This one's interesting to me. I think you have to expect Legion War Boss at this point out of Izzet Phoenix. And Thorn Lieutenant is actually a fine blocker for not only the Goblin tokens, but the War Boss itself. And the fact that it dodges removal pretty well by having that ability to create a 1/1 means that even if your opponent kills it, you still get something left behind to trade off with a Goblin token potentially. I don't love it, but I could definitely see Jody being a little desperate here after losing game 1 and maybe just needing to have more answers for Legion War Boss.
There's a package here of some larger green creatures. We have Biogenic Ooze as a 1/of, 3 Ripjaw Raptor, and 2 Thrashing Brontodon. You like any of that?
I like these creature packages more so for matchups where your opponent is really, really hard on counterspells like Negate. Most Izzet Phoenix decks only play a handful of counterspells on the sideboard and none in the main deck. So I would just go for plan A and not really go for this sideboard creature package.
Okay, probably the same argument for Saheeli as well.
Right. Yeah, that's kind of coupled with those other creatures.
All right, Bonds of Flourishing, largely for red. Does it play here?
Not really. The life gain is not hugely relevant. You're usually losing by miles or winning pretty easily.
Right, and then there's kind of an anti-flyers package. Kefnet, Corral Harpooner, and Arboreal Grazer. Do you like all of those? So
Kefnet does dodge Coil, and it trades with Crackling Drake, eats Arclight Phoenix, and it's just generally hard to kill. I do like it as a means of potentially turning the tables aggression-wise. I do like the Corral Harpooners because they check Crackling Drake, and Crackling Drake's one of the more important threats to deal with, while also being an early body that you can just cast to check the goblins from Warboss / trade with it. I don't really like the Arboreal Grazer or the Thrashing Brontodons, though.
Sure, yeah. Grazer a little bit mopey. God Eternal Kefnet's a card that we've seen a lot this weekend. You see it in Keith's sideboard. These Phoenix decks have been playing it. Strikes me as something that would be a pretty cool commander if you're into playing commander. And if you are, want to check out the Commander Versus team we have over here every Wednesday on this very channel.
Yeah, and if you're watching this on your phone at SCGCon right now, all day today, those Commander Versus guys are going to be in the dunk tank outside, so you might want to go slam them down the drain. I know Jeremy Knoll. Hey, Jeremy Knoll, when you get in the dunk tank?
You can watch that program every Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Something's kind of cool in the Commander setup we have going on this weekend. There's a wall that's every legendary creature. And you go play your Commander game, and if you win, you go put a stamp on the Commander that you won with.
Okay. What's the ultimate goal? To have a win with every Commander?
To not be able to read the card because it's covered in stamps.
Ah. All right, we're here for Game 2. What else was happening, Ryan?
Memorial to Genius, where Keith starts. Island for Tomajko. Second Memorial for Keith. Opt for Tomajko. Nothing really yet. Opt to top. Tomajko draws a mountain.
Yeah, both players just kind of sculpting here. Oliver actually has one of the better plays at his disposal here with a turn 2 Goblin Electromancer, and that's going to be on Jody to really get it off the table or get the engine revving, because right now it looks like he has another kind of mopey draw. Doesn't look like he even has access to green mana yet.
Yeah, that was a problem game 1, and also the problem was turn 2 Electromancer into turn 3 Phoenix. Tomajko starting to do that again.
Yeah, notably, Oliver does have 2 copies of Spell Pierce main deck, which is not unreasonable, but it's not you don't see it a ton. Here he has one of those Spell Pierces in hand, along with probably some sideboard counter spells like Negate and the 3rd Spell Pierce. But here he actually gets a shock, play another Electromancer, and then hold up Spell Pierce for a potential Wilderness Reclamation on turn 4.
And you mentioned it, Keith, once again off green mana. He just blink of an eye on the Electromancer.
Yeah, he saw what happened last game, did not want that to happen again.
Okay, well, he has land on time. It's Hinterland Harbor. He'll cast God Eternal Kefnet. Can't Spell Pierce that one.
No, you can't. But you have to make use of the body. And Oliver here can potentially overwhelm the God Eternal Kefnet. And, it's less than 50% to hit in most decks that it's in. So I'm not the hugest fan of it in a deck that's not applying pressure in other ways. But Oliver here looks like he can maybe go wide with a couple of Arclight Phoenixes and just start trying to pump through this God Eternal Kefnet before it really gets active.
Electromancer really doing its thing again. Tormenting Voice and Chart of Course both discarding Arclight Phoenixes.
Now, I think Oliver has a shock here. He may just go shock on your Kefnet, bring back both Phoenixes and attack. I don't hate that.
Yeah, that is interesting where to point it. There is a Finale of Promise in hand, so it'll be pretty easy to get the Phoenixes back time and again.
Yeah, next turn for sure. Can go opt Chart of Course next turn, maybe even find a 3rd Phoenix.
As you mentioned, there's shock on Kefnet. 2 Phoenixes coming back. They'll attack.
Yeah, and Oliver is probably going to play a Sulphur Falls post-combat here and hold up Spell Pierce.
No blocks for Keith. He'll fall to 14. There's that Sulphur Falls. We'll see what Jody can do about this.
And no trigger from Kefnet. Again, it's a little under 50% to hit. You need to be playing it in decks where the 4/5 body matters a lot. The sideboard creature package that Jody has implemented with the Kefnet, the Biogenic Ooze, the Ripjaw Raptors. In some scenarios, all those cards combined are quite good. I don't really love the Kefnet in this matchup as just a one-off sideboard option because you can't really pressure their life total that much.
Yeah, so far, it's gained 2 life. Not a great return on 4 mana just yet. So we see Tamiyo Clutcher of Tails cast. See if Tomajko has and wants to Spell Pierce that.
I think you do. I think Spell Pierce just loses value over time, and when you can snag a 4-mana card with it, it's quite good.
Yeah, and you do see it play out that way. Keith will play land number 5. It's another Memorial to Genius. We'll go back to Tomajko's way.
So here, Oliver has a couple options. He can cast a Crackling Drake. I actually quite like attacking with both Phoenixes. If there becomes a block, then you go Finale for Chart of Course Shock, knock off the Kefnet, draw 2 cards, and then you can probably, with all those resources in hand, still get back the Phoenix on the following turn.
Yeah, so that was an attack with both Phoenixes. Keith blocked 1 with Kefnet, fell to 11. Post-combat for Tomajko. There's a tap of 3. Finale of Promise, X equals 1. Looks like we have a shock and a Chart of Course. Sorry, X equals 2 because the Electromancer.
Right, yeah, and that's the thing. Electromancer does reduce the cost of the Finale, which is pretty huge here. And because he's already attacked, Oliver actually gets to draw 2 cards. In the Kefnet, Jody actually gets to choose whether, if he wants it in the graveyard or back on top of the deck. Chooses it back on top of the deck.
And Tomajko has attacked this turn, so that Chart of Course is just plus 2 cards in hand.
I would be pretty shocked if Oliver casts a Radical Idea on instep here. When you have a Phoenix in the graveyard and an Electromancer on the battlefield, you really want to main phase those Radical Ideas on your own turn to get that extra spell count up. And it looks like he has quite a few lands in hand as well. I'm curious to see how he plays out these next couple turns. Jody here struggling to really get much of anything going.
Tomajko very close to presenting lethal as things stand. Keith just has 5 lands. He's got to get something going here pretty quick. Looks like he's just going to pass the turn, and we see Radical Idea fired off at the end step.
All right, I guess he just says, okay, well, I have a Finale in hand already. Might as well go ahead and cycle this Radical Idea, maybe find some burn spells, maybe find another Arclight Phoenix.
He jump-started it as well, discarding a Mountain. Now we're back on Tomajko's turn. One of the cards he picked up was a Chart of Course.
Yeah, and this Goblin Election match, you're really seeing just how strong it is against a matchup where your opponent can't really kill it.
So there still is that second Arclight Phoenix in the graveyard, and Tomajko's not going to make any action to bring it back. Just an attack for 5 that's going to put Keith to 6, and now he's going to post-combat chart a course, just going up on the material here. Draws another chart a course.
This could get out of hand. I feel like Oliver should just deploy another creature, though. The Crackling Drake in hand seems pretty good. He can sandbag the Tormenting Voice in the chart a course for the following turn if he so chooses. And he's a little flush right now, so, you know, you don't really want to go like chart a course to draw 2 more cards when you already have like 6 or 7 cards in hand.
And he cast Tormenting Voice, discarded a Mountain, picked up a Shock and a Steam Vents. I think he's kind of just trying to find a counterspell, right?
No, that's fair too. Playing chart a course here to dig for exactly negate, or perhaps a backup Spell Pierce to perfectly snag Nexus into, Wilderness Reclamation into Nexus.
And here's another chart a course. And that's kind of the issue with the Crackling Drake, right? He's a little light on blue mana.
Right. And he hasn't played a land yet for turn, so he still has access to Tormenting Voice here. And he could find negate off of it. He can even find like opt into negate.
So there's Tormenting Voice, discards Steam Vents, draws 2 Arclight Phoenix.
That's pretty brutal. I think if he had just done this all pre-combat, he might have actually just found lethal here.
And so past turn, there's a Growth Spiral for Keith. No land put in.
No land is huge because you know there's a Kefnet on top that he's drawn for turn. And he can't go Reclamation into Nexus. He's 1 mana short.
Yeah. Keith kind of in dire straits here, and still just 1 green mana source.
Right. You know, if he just plays Kefnet here, he's dead. Oliver's just going to untap, play Finale Promise. And he had no response last turn to the attack for 5. Oliver here might just have the dagger.
Definitely looking good for him. There's the Kefnet from Jody.
Yeah, and with only 1 mana active, just not really enough to do anything.
Shock and step. Writing's kind of on the wall here. Keith down to 6. As mentioned, Tomajko has that Finale of Promise in hand. He's going to shock for the Steam Vents to 16. He's got a fistful of Phoenixes.
In this case, he can just cast the Phoenix.
He can do a little bit better, though. Finale on that shock chart, of course. Keith knows what's up. Those Phoenixes are coming back. They'll come across for lethal. Oliver Tomajko 2-0 in a matchup that does look a little rough for him on paper.
Yeah, and I think that's just mostly due to Jody Keith stumbling quite a bit. He didn't have the best draws. His build is also